Everybody could rise and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Deputy Clerk Williamson, call roll.
Trustee Brown. Here. Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Lynch. Trustee Roll.
Here.
Trustee Taylor.
Here.
Trustee Williams.
Somebody like to make a motion for the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of November 19th, 2024. Trustee Williams.
Second.
Trustee Brown. Any questions or corrections? Deputy Clerk Williamson, call the roll.
Trustee Clark. Oh, excuse me. Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee Lynch. Trustee Roll.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
Treasurer's report, Ryan.
Good evening, everyone. The first thing I want to point out is we did have an adjustment to the numbers. We found that on page 6 of the paid invoice report or page 16 of the entire packet, if you're looking at it one way or the other, we had an incorrect payment to Pure Tech. It was originally in there for $2,280 and 0 cents, and it should have been $22,800. So I am going to walk through the numbers as far as changing from that perspective. It impacts TIF Halsted North. So for bills payable, November 27th, the corporate was $99,643 and 55 cents. Sewer and water, $8,618 and 96 cents. Federal forfeiture fund was $4,500 even. TIF Industrial Park was $1,890 and 70 cents. TIF Main Street, $750. Glenwood Golf Course, $19,289 and 81 cents. Halsted North would be, with the correction, $157,415 and 14 cents. Halsted South was $450. So the new total of all funds for the payables was $292,558 and 16 cents. With this, we do have AP transfer to be made via contiguous TIFs of $65,000 out of the industrial TIF going to the Halsted North TIF to pay for primarily the Fire Station 2 expenses that came in.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve the bills paid. Trustee Taylor. Trustee Clark. Any questions? Deputy Clerk Williamson, call roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Trustee Roll. Trustee Lynch. Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Payroll.
For payroll, dated November 27th of 2024, corporate was $143,355 and 4 cents. Sewer and water was $20,151 and 12 cents. Paid on call was $13,973 and 78 cents. Elected positions was $6,274 and 37 cents. Glenwood Golf Course was $20,079 and 17 cents. Vendor checks were $2,870 and 55 cents. Overtime, police overtime was $8,422 and 28 cents. Reimbursable of that was $1,186 and 96 cents. Sewer and water was $1,120 and 40 cents. Public Works was $962 and 80 cents. Economic Development stipend was $461 and 54 cents. Deputy Clerk stipend was $192 and 31 cents for a total payroll of $217,863 and 36 cents.
Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the payroll? Taylor. Trustee Roll. Any questions? Deputy Clerk Williamson, call roll.
Trustee Brown. Yes. Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee Lynch is absent. Trustee Roll. Yes. Trustee Taylor. Yes. Trustee Williams.
Aye.
The meeting is now open to the public for anything anybody wants to bring up. Just come up, state your name, and put your name on the list, and you can address the board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I trust everybody had a really nice Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thanks for the turkey. Last month I came and I asked the particular mayor about the senior center.
Yes, we evaluated that.
Look, Madeline?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Speak up.
The mic's not on?
Is it green light lit?
Is it green light? No?
Lit.
Push that button.
Can you hear me?
Nope.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay, yeah. I didn't hear Rich respond to what I said about the senior center and asking that it be redone. One thing that disturbed me was when I went back to look at the minutes to see what the minutes had said about my request to you. There was nothing in the minutes regarding my public comment and your response to me on those comments, because I wanted to bring it back to you, because today you said that not only would you have an answer, but you would have some dates so we can, get the senior center really up and running and really making it look nice. But it is utilized, and it's shabby in there, and it looks terrible. And last year you were saying there was money there for us to do this, but nothing has been done. So now you can respond.
We evaluated the senior center, and it cost about $120,000. We were gonna redo the floor, the lighting, and the tiles, the tiles above that. So.
Keep going. The stove,
Yeah,
the
stove.
refrigerator, the ice maker.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we're gonna have a county meeting next Tuesday, for the spending of ARPA funds,
Mm-hmm.
and, that will be on the list.
So having a comment, but would there be any concrete dates of where, at what point those projects will begin? Because we always have discussion, but we never get to the fruition and the end of getting it done.
We'll get bids in the meantime. That was an approximate bid, $120,000, but we'll get bids in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
We can county, to discuss how we're gonna spend the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many bids do you plan on getting and what time frame are you looking at?
We usually like to get 3 bids.
Okay, and in what time frame do you want to get this done?
I'd like to get it done in January, start of January.
Okay,
So, but we'll have to call for bid for contractors, and we'll take the lowest bid.
okay. I'll be back.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Ms. Lee, did you say that when you first started, did you say that your comments weren't in the minutes?
Yeah, I said they were not in the minutes because I went back and I looked on my computer where they have, the public comments, and I didn't see any of the comments that I had made. Yes, that's what I said. I did not see that.
I'm looking at it. I'll show you.
Okay, you can show me.
Yeah, it's right here.
Well, it didn't come through when I read it. Everybody else's did because I was here. So I was able to, follow it, but I didn't see mine. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Tony Clark, Portrait through our fall.
Edwin King, 253. All right, my question is, and this, I know it's on the agenda for discussion, but we won't get a chance to comment about this traffic calming policy. My first question is, why is it that seems like, from what my understanding is, why we're adding a bureaucratic process to an issue, or to try to resolve an issue that we know already exists? think it's realistic to expect the residents to, we can't get petitions signed for other stuff. We know the issue exists. I experienced it at least a couple of times a week I don't live on Dante or Minerva, but in my house, coming in from work or other places, at least a couple of times a week on both of those streets. People come by me like they're out there on 394. We know that's an issue. What can we do to resolve that without going through such an onerous process? I know we talked about, I've heard it in here a couple of years I've been coming about speed bumps and all that stuff. What can we do? And I know the police force is already stretched. So what can we do? And is it realistic to say we're going to do a study? Who's going to do this study? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was my question.
Well, as you can see, me and Mr. King have talked about this issue. Me being president of the Manor, he's president of Brooklyn Park. I will release that study to our members. I'm hoping Brooklyn Point will do the same thing. But I want to voice my concern about all of a sudden we have to have this very arduous petition signing. Certain percentages have to be accomplished to do this. It shouldn't be that hard. We know this problem is this. And anything you do can be somewhat experimental anyway. You know, I mean, if there's a problem on a particular street for speeding, you lay some bumps. No, they don't have to be permanent bumps anyway. You know, Country Club Hills has some speed bumps that are removable. So if you have a problem on this street, you put it there for a little while. And then you put it on another street for a little while. And as Mr. King stated, you know, we haven't done any petitions for any other very major project in town. So why should this have to be so, it's such a pro and con situation? There is nobody I speak to that's not concerned about the speed. No one. Everybody's concerned about speed. And if somebody is a little bit inconvenienced or whatever, so happy. We've had near-miss fatalities in this town regardless. So, I mean, what is it going to take somebody to get seriously hurt? So, but you'll have our cooperation, so whatever process you use. But hopefully we can do something before it turns warm.
Michelle Mosley, 337 Harper. So I'm before you today because I'm I know that it's been balanced, so that's good. But I still have some questions. The first question The first question I have is regarding vehicles. So that's in the income section of the administrative portion. And it says that we're gonna have $105,000 in vehicle stickers. Vehicle stickers finish selling basically at the end of May. So my first question is, did we collect $105,000? Or is this number overstated?
You're talking for the 2025 budget?
Correct.
So we also then start selling them again in April, correct?
So you're gonna count next year, so in the 2026 budget, those sales will be counted in 2025?
It's the sales for the whole year, of the fiscal year, so it depends on when the vehicle stickers are purchased.
Do we know how much we collected for 2024 thus far, or 2025 thus far?
I do not have that available.
But we are planning to count 2 years of sales in this one budget.
Not 2 years, we're counting from
I
May
understand.
1st till April 30th, so whatever we're collecting between that time frame.
So last year, the stickers didn't even go on sale until April. But, okay, that's fine. We just have to remember, make a note, that in next year's budget, we're not gonna have vehicle sticker sales at $105,000, because they've been counted in 2025. The next question I have is about yard waste stickers. Again, yard waste, and this is a small one, but yard waste stickers, that season is over. And if I'm not mistaken, yard waste was free this year, wasn't it? We didn't need stickers. Is that correct? Just the month of November? Okay. So did we collect $6,000 in yard waste stickers?
Again, I don't have those in front of me.
Okay. And then my next question is also in the income section where we say we're going to have $240,000 in grants. Have those grants been awarded? Do we have award letters for that money?
Yes, the grant money that's there is for the most part, for the fire breathing apparatus equipment that was approved.
For admin or for the fire department?
Well, because the fire department is all part of the corporate entity, it's for the fire department, but it shows up there as grant income.
So we had $343,000 in grant income for the fire department. Is that the same thing?
Where are you referencing that, I guess?
Well, it's in and out in the fire department. Hang on, I didn't expect to have this today. Okay, so these, oh, I'm sorry, that's two of them are, I take it back. So the fire department grants are in admin.
Yes.
All right, so then my next question is about the, tipping fee. I would just like an explanation as to what that is.
That's for trucks dumping their material where it's acceptable within the village, and I don't know the exact address of, or the location. The chief might be able to help.
It's the tipping fees for the dumping at the quarry, near the quarry for the mountain.
Okay, and is there a reason why it's substantially higher than it's been in the past?
Yeah, that way they've proven that they're moving at a quicker pace than what they projected to us.
Okay. Then my next question is still that miscellaneous spending. It's gone down to $60,000, but I'd like to know what that is.
There's a plethora of things that are built into there, and I haven't had the chance to get my arms around everything, so I budgeted according to what we were seeing from the history. This goes back to not really having a finance lead in the place, and things were being coded to miscellaneous and still the appropriate places on the income section.
So in the past 2 years, it was budgeted at $5,000, and now it's $60,000, and you're saying you're going on past budgets. What's the increase?
The last 3 years of miscellaneous income on page 2.
It's not income, it's expense.
Oh, you're talking expenses.
Mhm.
So because the year 2023 had 188,000 in there, I did want to put a little bit of padding in there because I don't know what that's associated to. That could come back to hit us for 60,000. So it's a guess here.
Okay. All right, and then I'm curious about the sewer and water grant. It's in and out at the $3,483,000 in and out.
This is all reference to the work being done in Arcola Park for the levee. So what was awarded to the village was a $3 million for, let me get to the right page. So what the NWRD awarded us was they're paying $3.483 million. So we're expending it on our accounts payable, and then they reimburse us for those charges. So that's why you're seeing both sides of that coming in and going out.
Okay. And then we go to the bond payments, and you have transfers in as revenue. And of course, that's not revenue. Revenue is money you earn. So,
But because of fund accounting that's coming from different funds, so it needs to transfer into that fund in order to be paid in.
right, but
So the other funds have a transfer out.
I understand that, but it's not revenue. It shouldn't count as revenue.
This is how it's been done in the past.
All right, I think, well, of course, I have questions about the tips. So, we're saying we're spending $3 million on Hofstra North and South, and I know that's the sewer project and the firehouse. And I know that there was supposed to be an offset of $1.4 million, and I want to know that we received that, and is that accounted for in these numbers?
Are you talking about Robin County?
Yes.
Have we received that yet?
I can comment on that, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
The Army Corps pays that directly to the contractor.
So how do we account, thank you. So how do we account for that now?
Because they're paying directly,
So,
that wouldn't be in our budget. What's in here is our portion of taking the sewer system down Gay Court. That's not part of our core scope.
Correct.
so then the total expense is not this $3 million, but $4.4 million.
No, so the 3.4 million is the levy at Arcola Park.
No, this is Hofstra North and South.
Okay. The one piece is for the fire department, fire station, and the other piece is taking the sewer system down Gay Court to extend it from the South Plaza to where the Army Corps is picking up their piece of it.
Correct, I get that. So in our budget, we're spending $3 million, just short of $3.1 million. And there's another portion of bills that we don't see, we're not budgeting, that's 1.4, which makes 4.4. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you very much.
Anybody else willing to?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Judith Mills, 349 Strife Lane. Again, commendations on the Christmas decorations.
They did a great job.
Yes. I'm concerned because about, I want to say 9:30 last evening on on Wisconsin and Virginia, about a block and a half, water was like close to maybe over a foot up and down. I don't know if you heard about that. In the estates, this was just last night. It went on until 2 or 3 this morning. See, Public Works isn't here, and there's probably a reason for that. But anyways, water was rolling all over the place. Residents didn't have any water until like close to 6 this morning that live on Wisconsin and all of Virginia. They were back and forth on the group me chat all night talking about it. Water main break. Last week on Indiana and through Arizona, same thing. And it was all blocked off over there last weekend. This is about the 8th water main break in the estates this year. I'm sure you're familiar with several. We want to know, the question is, the infrastructure budget monies, could you give a comment as to how that was used and currently used and what it was used for, etc.? Because we have had water main breaks for the past couple of years, and I'm only speaking for the estates, I don't know about areas. Yeah, well, this was last night, and this was really, this kind of weather not to have water most of the night is not good. But none of it is ever good. But this is a big concern of ours. So if we can have feedback on that, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Dave or Chief?
We're actually waiting for a response from the IEPA. We did apply for the IEPA low interest loan program to replace multiple streets of water main in the Estates and in Brookwood Point. The design is done. We're just waiting for that funding to be released. Because of Glenwood's economic status, Village is eligible for, I think, 25% per year of loan forgiveness. So you're actually, you're getting 25 cents back on every dollar you spend on that. I will follow up with the IEPA tomorrow and report back to the mayor on their review.
Does that have anything to do with the infrastructure budget?
Yeah.
Okay, that is the infrastructure.
Right, that is
Because I know there was an infrastructure budget that was sent from the governor's office a few years ago.
Right, that forgiveness portion is paid for by the state. You take the loan out and they give you the money, you just don't pay that 25% back. So that is the state's infrastructure money that pays that, and that would be to replace your water pipes and stuff breaking.
Okay, this continues to happen often. And I know, it can be an act of God or can be, helped, or I don't know how it can be somewhat resolved, if resolved at all, but it's a major problem in the estates.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly why certain areas have more problems, if it was the backfill they used when they built it, but in general, a lot of the infrastructure in Glenwood is 50, 60 years old. They used cast iron pipes back then, they're just more brittle, and we'll be replacing with plastic that's a little more flexible, a little more giving connection.
So will the replacement be continuous? So maybe we can do some preventative sometime.
Yeah, that's, as long as funding is available, I would recommend that.
Okay, and we get additional funding on that?
Yeah, that revolving loan program is an ongoing program in the state.
Good evening. I'm happy. I'm very happy. Okay, good. When my parents told me to take Latin in high school, I thought,
when will I ever use Latin? Well, my parents are right. The word fiduciary is derived from the Latin word fiducia, which means trust, confidence, and reliance. At the last meeting, I heard the tape, and correct me if I'm wrong, the village attorney stated that the village did not have to follow village ordinances. It's your duty, President Gardner, to make sure that every law and every ordinance in Glenwood is followed to the letter. I'd like to ask you, President Gardner, who do you owe your fiduciary responsibility?
Residents.
Thank you. Then it's fine, it's past time that began. Because it appears that a lot of your fiduciary responsibilities are to others. I'd like to point out a couple of things on the budget as well. For the last 3 years, our revenue has been stable. In 2022, $12,838,012. The budget for this year, $12,798,845. So our revenue is stable. The problem is expenses. Our expenses in fiscal year 22, $10,631,813. For this fiscal year, $12,566,823. I'll do the math for you. That's $1,925,000 increase in 3 years, which is 18.1% over 3 years. You can't continue to spend more than you make. If you do that at home, what do you think is going to happen? You going to play your guitar sharp? Okay. I have 2 issues with current bids. I had a friend of mine send a request in over the summer to bid on the health insurance. He did not receive a response.
He did not contact me.
He sent it to the village administrator. He sent a letter to the village administrator asking if he could bid on the insurance. He did not get a written response or a phone call. Now, let's go through a couple things on that. Okay? If the health insurance increased 16% over 1 year, certainly using our Village of Glenwood handy dandy purchasing policy should have been used. You stated earlier regarding the senior center about getting 3 bids. Our policy requires us to get bids on anything over $10,000. Another issue I have is the home disposal bid. Now, I have the home disposal contract right here in my handy dandy little folder, but I'm wondering why their increase has increased from $544,000 in 2022 to $745,000 for this fiscal year. That's a 36% increase over a 3-year period, and they never gone to RFP in 7 years. Homewood Disposal. Now, I have the contract for Homewood Disposal right here that you signed right before the election in 2017. And the contract states that it would end, let me get the date now, I don't want to say anything incorrect. The contract was going to end, let's see, in June 30th of 2024. And the CPI was only 4% a year. So if the increase in the contract is 4%, how is it that it was 12%? Also, since we did not go to bid, guess what happened? Yes. The contract automatically renewed because of our inaction. Government is work. It's not parties. I love decorations, but that's not government. Government is saving us tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing the work. I would like for you to contact Home Disposal immediately and go to RFP on that contract. And you and I both know they've been a campaign donor. And who doesn't like a good campaign donation? But the good of the people, the good of the many, outweigh the good of the few. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Leon Moore, 318 Blackstone. Just have a few follow-ups. I think the budget issue is front and center. Does not the budget have to be passed by the end of the year? Is that my understanding? Is that we have to make a decision in respect to the budget by 12/31 in order to get it to the appropriate authority so that we can get our money? Is that everybody's looking blank? I hope that. I hope that's the case. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time, and I think Mr. Donahue pointed that out to us last time, that we need to move on in terms of getting the budget passed. And I know that we got an updated version, thank you, Nancy, we got an updated version on the system, and incorporated some changes, but is that it? I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of where do we stand, because we don't have a whole lot of time, and if there are going to be additional adjustments, they need to be made expeditiously, because otherwise, we have to have a balanced budget. And I know that there's still some outlying issues with respect to balancing the recap that I got from Mr. Jensen, if we are balanced. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's the next point. The other point that I wanted to make in regard to transfer of funds, and I know that Mr. Jensen came in the middle of the movie, we start moving monies from TIFs to accommodate various other expenses, not the least of which was the firehouse. And so I know, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that you have authorization about 1.6 now?
1.8.
1.8. And so I would ask that Mr. Jensen, when you transfer the money in accommodation to be applied to the firehouse, can we get a balance? Because we don't know how much has been spent so much, at least in terms of your report. So we can just get some indication how much balance has already been approved toward that 1.8 as you make those transfers from that is something that we can have.
Should be able to put some,
Okay, we just don't want Mr. the fire chief to spend his money somewhere at this point without coming back to the board. That's the only one. And so I see every meeting we do have that transfer of tip to tip to tip, and so that would be helpful just to kind of keep us informed as to where we are on the balance, as well as in terms of any monies that are still in those tips that can be used. That was one of the questions. And so the question that still remains unresolved is the pumper, in terms of the financing of the pumper, and I'm not sure if there's any update on that, in terms of how we're going to do that.
But we're still waiting, we have not been approved for the loan because they want our official audit, correct?
Brian was the last to speak to them, but as far as I know, that's what they're waiting on, should have it shortly. but it's all in line to go as the way it was voted on by the board. Motion.
The other question that I had in terms of the audit, I know that last meeting, it was stated that we have our trial balance, the fiscal 22 trial balance beginning for the auditors. And I understand that we're gonna have the audit engagement shortly in terms of the start of that process. Can we confirm that? It amazes me, everybody looks blank.
They have sent me some information back after receiving the trial balance for additional comments and concerns. But it's moving along.
The audit start?
The audit, yes.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna start the next one, right?
I understand that, but my sense of it is that the audit start process is a public meeting. And I have not seen any, I wanted to attend that meeting in terms of in terms of the scope of the audit and the engagement letter. And I have not seen anything to that effect. Is that something that's already occurred?
The engagement letter was approved this summer, so.
I understand that. I understand the engagement letter in terms of the actual sit down with the auditors in terms of the team and the time frame and all of those kind of things. That's public, according to
According to what?
I'm sorry, public meetings in terms of the Open Meetings Act. That can be a public meeting.
It's the finance committee, but I don't include the finance committee in that.
Well,
So I'm not aware of an open meeting as far as the kickoff of the audit.
yeah, well,
We will open that.
am I welcome to attend? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I certainly will attend. Okay, that's pretty much my agenda. I didn't have anything else. I think I did have a conversation with Mr. Jensen in terms of the format, in terms of the ease of the readability of the proposed budget proposal. And we have relied on one that had been useful for a very long time, where it not only highlighted the changes, but it gave us kind of a brief explanation as to why. And it also arrayed the salaries. Salaries have to be arrayed. In the proposal that's on the table right now, other than the director, everything else is kind of amalgamated. So we'd like to go back to that kind of information. I passed out a copy of what we've used for years to make sure that the citizens are aware. We do this accounting stuff all the time, so we are aware. But the citizens need to be aware of what we're paying various categories of folks. And so if that's an okay with the mayor, I would like to suggest, and I passed out a copy, is to how it would be a little bit more explicit for the people who are not accountants can understand where we're spending our money. And if that's an acceptable proposition, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Okay, that may be it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the board?
Good evening. Good evening. Janet Hadnot, 257 Pleasant Drive. I'm just wondering, if anybody can answer. Today is December 3rd, and 187th Street was supposed to be completed on November 21st. And just as a citizen, I've seen some crazy stuff in terms of people going down 187 when they shouldn't be. And I'm not speaking in an official capacity, but just as an employee of Luna Academy, I've seen people go through the campus that's not safe for our staff or our students. So, when is any word on when it's going to be done?
Yes, they poured the curbs are poured, and they're going to put a hard surface in. How many days is that going to take?
Last I talked to them this afternoon, it was gonna be all paid on Saturday.
Okay, then we'll be over.
So,
They are paying fines for the days that they're not good, because they didn't complete it on time.
who they paying the fine to?
They're going to reduce it from the monthly payment.
Oh, okay. So this Saturday, it should be open, is that what I'm hearing?
It should be paved on Saturday, probably open on Monday.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Just one more thing. You know, we have very talented and knowledgeable people in the village when it comes to the nuts and bolts of the finance. I am more or less really concerned about structure. And as Mr. Moore said, that he was asking questions and people seem to sit here blank. And when Michelle was asking questions, everything was asked to the gentleman to my left. And it just seems that as trustees, any of you all should have been able to answer those questions. If there's a concern about the Open Meetings Act, man, you should have had some meetings on Saturday and have 1 or 2 or 3 come in at a time to discuss the budget so that everybody would be on top of it. So there's no trustee here that should be well aware of the budget, the differences in the budget, and should have had the same concerns as anybody who approached this podium about any differentials, any overstated revenues, problems with expenses, what have you. And any of you should have been able to answer those questions about the budget.
Anybody else wishing to address the board? Okay. Thank you. Communications from the mayor's office. Mr. Wiley? Come on up. Everybody receives a resume from Mr. Riley in your package. We are going to appoint him as Economic Development Committee member. And I wanted, if anybody had any questions, Mr. Wiley's here. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Riley? Okay, no questions. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve Calvin Bradley Wiley to Economic Development Committee?
So moved.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Roll. Second? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe? Yes. Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Congratulations. I'll get in touch with you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Approval of insurance program proposal. Mr. Dufkus?
Good evening. This is the renewal of the property casualty workers' compensation program. This year, it went up about a little over 5%. This is driven by the marketplace for really 3 areas. One is property insurance. The insurance companies are increasing all property values, their replacement values, due to inflation and the cost of materials and labor. So they're increasing their property rates. Auto rates are going up as well due to auto accidents and people on cell phones. So a lot of the auto increases are due to that. Plus, I wanted to talk about the property also is with hurricanes and natural disasters that's been going on. Billions of dollars have been paid by the insurance companies. And you'll also see this in your homeowners, personal auto policies. I know I have, it has trickled down to the individual policy holders. But all in all, like I said, the property is really the driver of the increase. It went up probably a little over $50,000. And with the workers' compensation carrier, the village also received a $10,617 safety grant from the carrier.
Are there any, so practically speaking, I know that just even in my homeowners and my auto, I've seen in terms of municipality or government, do you see any, are there any real-time factors that contribute to the government sector or these increases?
It's, honestly, it is the entire marketplace that it's seen. This is what we're seeing across the board, whether it's a public sector client or a private sector client, regardless of how many claims that they had or the severity, which also plays a part in that. But those are the three areas that we're really seeing hefty increases.
So, I know this we have, we have travelers in our primary.
Yes.
And who are we access, who are we access to? Who's our access carrier?
The excess carrier will, on the umbrella, the first 7 million is Travelers. And the excess umbrella is Third Coast Insurance Company. Third Coast Insurance Company.
Any other questions? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion of the approval of the insurance program proposal that was in the packet? Mayor, I also have a question, sir. As it relates to our renewal strategy, has that preparation changed from year to year? The preparation strategy for the renewal, has that changed from year to year in terms of how we're able to gather that information, what specific information we're looking for, and how that has an impact on the current year's potential rate?
Good question. So our approach has always been we gather the information that Brian in his office, and we get those updated information, and then we go to the marketplace, we go to various insurance companies to get multiple quotes to see if, for example, Travelers has the best terms, conditions, and pricing. So we go to 5 different insurance companies. Travelers came back with again the best terms, conditions, and pricing. And we do that every year on behalf of the business.
So I know where our health insurance, a lot of that bid process is kind of also hindered by our union contracts. Does this particular portion of our insurance have any type of relationship with our union contracts at all?
No, it does not.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Somebody like to make a motion again for the approval of the insurance program proposal in the packet? Trustee Taylor. Trustee Clark. Any additional questions? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Yes, trustee Burnham?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe? Yes. Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Thank you very much. Mayor, I'm sorry, I just thought about it over here. Could our premiums or our coverage, in a sense, change in terms of cost effective if we went to leasing options instead of purchasing? Is that something we would want to potentially explore?
When we talk about leasing vehicles,
Yeah.
you would still have to carry the liability insurance on it, contract agreement with the village and the leasing company, because there's a new insurance indemnification.
No, I get that, but I guess just on this, is there an opportunity for cost savings there, leasing as opposed to purchasing?
Possibly.
If our employees take classes, like state employees or county employees, all they drive to take those classes, would that reduce our, in any way? If we introduce that to the fact?
So like defensive driving.
Yeah.
Training, yes. You know, it will definitely help on the show carry.
And can your company settle something like that?
Sure. I could talk to Brian about it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Lucas. All right, thank you, Arlo. Attorney's report, John Donahue.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Sorry for my tardiness, I was over 2 hours on the road. There's all those accidents and things, but I don't have anything.
Okay. Village Administrator, Ryan Mitchell.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Engineering, Dave Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor. I was gonna give the schedule update for 187th, but that came up in public comment, so no reports.
Okay. Department reports, Police, Chief Petticoat.
Good evening, Mayor, Trustees, residents, guests. Included, we have our draft policy for traffic calming measures. Included in that is the rationale for having the policy. That's included in the draft. I'm not going to read it all, but just to highlight some of the things, just make sure that there's public information, all that will be expected if traffic calming measures were taken. Ensure that we include public works, fire department, schools, bus companies, that would be, their input and concerns will definitely need to be evaluated. And for data collection, this draft policy, it's geared more towards your complex traffic calming measures. For those who are looking at something more costly, those more long-lasting and year-round, complex that are going to be costly, and such as you saw the speed tables at Longwood, Narquilla, or Minerva, 192nd by the Park. So those are the types of projects where you would likely look at obtaining grants. And when you're applying for grants for that type of funding, normally part of the grant application is having data collection included, as well as submitting copies of your traffic calming policies. So those are some things why the rationale of having a traffic calming policy exists. Also, it is good to have a policy in the event that any of these traffic calming measures cause any injuries or damage to properties or vehicles from people using roadways. It helps your legal defense and litigation to have a policy that justifies why these measures were taken and installed. But alternatively, included were some examples where recommendations from our engineer of seasonal traffic stops or traffic speed bumps from April till December at specific locations where you normally get complaints of speed, such as their thoroughfares, such as Dante and Minerva. But again, the draft policy is geared more towards your complex physical measures. Just for conceptually speaking, if we were to consider taking the south end of Dante and bring that into a cul-de-sac to eliminate the through traffic from Old Lansing to Old Iron and Mentor. So, any consideration, that's all I have.
Okay. First risks. Step, because you want to do a survey of traffic.
It depends, yes. I mean, that's part of the process is, if we're going for something more complex, such as, we're going to look to install, speed tables or speed humps at certain locations. We want to do a traffic study because that would be something we would probably want to get look at grants to fund that, because as you saw the information from the engineer showing, those things are very costly. If we were going to look at just something quick to do without a lot of that, that would be just temporary speed bumps. Steve will put in, take them out before the snow season.
We set another survey for the council budget. So we could word on that survey, so residents can comment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sure, go right ahead.
Village Administrator, just out of curiosity, I can't remember the language in the contract, but when does our agreement with the grants company review? I was thinking of it on the next cycle. I'll have to look and see. I know we've been in contact with them on some new stuff that we're working on with them now, so I'll check that maybe it's Chief Mission Grants, I know pay for the next grant writing, but I know that we only allotted so many per year that's free of charge. I'm just curious as to when it starts. I don't know if that could be priority and something that
No problem.
Any questions for the chief? Okay, fire building, Chief Walsh.
Thank you, Your Honor. Requesting a motion for ratification of the revised automatic aid agreement with Davis District 24. You have it in your packets. I'll just go over it briefly. This agreement has been in effect for several years. When the three municipalities of Madison, Richmond Park, and Park Forest approached Division 24 to join our organization and come out of the one they're in now, we contacted our attorneys, and it was originally going to be just an addendum to this agreement. And in looking it over, the agreement lacked one piece, and that is the fact that the majority of our work is done in EMS, or emergency medical service, at about 70 to 72%. And this agreement did not cover that, although we provided it to each other all along. So we included those sections in there. That would be at the bottom of page 1. It says, whereas it is in the best interest to include the automatic aid for the same mutually beneficial waterway as it relates to emergency medical services. That paragraph was added. Of course, the names of the three municipalities were added. And then on page 3 at the bottom, it provides for the ability for the providing town to do the billing to the patient. And other than that, the entire agreement stayed the same as the one that's in effect now. This allows us to do our everyday automatic aid back and forth between communities before we get into the mutual aid agreements, which we already have on file.
Is there any questions for the chief? Somebody like to make a motion for the ratification of revised automatic aid agreement with Mavis Division 24? Trustee Roll, Trustee Lynch. Any additional questions? Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe? Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Two things, Your Honor, if I could. A reminder to everyone, and to get the information out, food and toy drive for the fire department for needy families that need some help in town. We'll be around collecting items on the curb December 14th, which is a Saturday starting at 9 a.m., or they can drop off at Fire Station 1 or call to make arrangements for pickup. And I just did want to report that today, I don't sound like this normally, but we did have a house fire in the 300 block of Maryland, where your firefighters performed a rescue. The young man was in the basement. There was food cooking upstairs. The house was gutted out, and we got him out of there just in time. So it was an extensive fire, and the guys and gals did a great job.
Thank you very much. For new business, I meant to tell people earlier, we're going to be starting on 24, 25, 26, but we're going to be sending out the surveys shortly, so we're going to get a jump start on it. Any new business? Old business? Ryan?
Thank you again, Mayor. It's listed in here in two spots. So one is the operations budget, and then what I'm going to call the TIF projection, as far as where we see that going from the beginning of this year to the end of the fiscal year, where they're going to end up. So on the budget, per the last meeting, incorporated the payroll increases that were approved. And at the same time of doing that, made adjustments to other salaries that we still haven't filled those positions, but they were held open, so we adjusted those so that basically we're saying hopefully we can, if we're going to get them hired, we're taking the assumption of possibly January start dates. So we took some of those dollars to then pay for, in essence, some of the pay increases that went into effect. We adjusted some of the vehicles down within this reiteration. We are now with corporate vehicles of replacing 3 vehicles one truck that's gonna have a plow, and the mini dump truck is kind of what's left. As far as what they've requested and what fits into this budget is being balanced. Brought down the remodel expenses at the police station by about $50,000 in order to accommodate everything else. So that was mainly what impacted the corporate side. The motor fuel kind of stayed the same. Moving into the water account or fund. Big shift as far, and this was noted by Michelle, that the NWRD money actually flowing through the water sewer fund. So again, that's really in and out. We're going to expend the $3.4 million, but we're supposed to be getting reimbursed by the NWRD for that same dollar amount. Also, still within the water sewer section is still two trucks that will also be outfitted for plows as needed. On the Glenwood Golf Course, we updated some revenues based on where October and November leading as far as that piece goes, in addition to the payroll changes. So we picked up a little ground there to help be even on the budget. So that kind of is a quick summary of what's been changed and kind of what's left into the budget. Overall, I know the residents probably don't want to hear that this doesn't really have any glamour stuff for them in it. Yes, we are, I guess the biggest project in this is that we're trying to fix that levy system. We do have some vehicles that need to be purchased. And we have the police station, I know, that is in dire need of some change. But I really do plead that you take into account of going through that survey and getting us as much information as we can so we can figure out what the right projects go forward for you guys are that we can fit into a budget for 2026. Do you want me to stop here and talk about questions and then move into the TIF side?
Yeah, why don't you go into the TIF and then we'll...
Okay, so on the TIF perspective, some adjustments from the last time, mainly around what we felt that property taxes were going to be, and then balancing off the right transfers that are going to be associated to the major projects still going on in the TIF. And they were mentioned earlier, the Fire Station 2, which is the ongoing project, but then the newer project that's going to be coming is that sewer line coming down Gate Court from the South Plaza all the way down to 187th Street. Those are the big things that are going to be accomplished within that budget. It did change quite drastically as far as the income that we're going to be getting from, in the end, from the Cook County property taxes here. So it improved some, but we are still negative if you look at just the revenues and expenses in the TIFs by $503,000 when you net both contiguous groups together. But we do have that fund in the balance to begin with, so we're actually bringing down those funds. So by the end of this, we're projecting the TIF fund accounts to be just under $8 million still in the bank for funds to pay off the future debts or future obligations, and then other projects that are going to come up in those TIF funds.
Does anybody have any questions about the budget or the TIF projections? Okay, go ahead.
Robert, I know that this is a revised version of the budget. Have we taken into consideration all of the feedback that we receive from residents at the meetings and even the ones that call or email with suggestions?
As far as suggestions of things to add to this is the hard part. If we don't have a process in place to actually put it into fruition before April 30th, it really shouldn't go into the budget. That's why I would plead that we need to really focus on getting this going for 2026 this fiscal year so we can get those incorporated.
Thank you on that. I just want to make sure that everyone feels like they had a chance to be heard, because I've heard that a lot, that when do we get input, when do we, our comments received. So I just want to make sure that everyone was heard, even if we can't necessarily accommodate in this budget, but at least everyone had a chance to be heard, and then we could also consider that for the next budget cycle.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
I have, Brian, so I know, first of all, thank you for the work that you did. I know that, just myself alone, we spent quite a while on this budget, just going line by line, so thank you for that. As far, and I know we discussed this before, but because the budget's been revised, I'm just wondering, if we can identify specifically how we'll bring that shortfall down, to a little over $500,000, that we're in the deficit for the TIFs. How do we continue to, mitigate that difference? Where specifically are we going to do that?
Well, I think the TIFs in general, you gotta think about, it's different than the operations budget, right? Because you've already earned money that you haven't spent in that TIF for future projects. That's why it was sitting with a balance prior. So that was, as of May 1st, we were over 8 million, 8.3-ish million. So that's money that's available to spend on projects. So technically you can go into what I'm going to say a deficit, but it's not really a deficit because you have that money in the bank already.
So I guess, my only concern with that, Brian, is, and I know I brought it up in past meetings, is the fact that it's difficult for the board, let me say specifically me, perhaps the board might have a different approach to it, but to know where, we stand financially in terms of projects, right? We don't get real-time balance sheets of what's been spent, what's remaining of that. And so I hear what you're saying about this 8 million, but it kind of worries me. And not in any way am I insinuating, misrepresenting or anything. I understand how you drew the conclusion. But I guess for us on a bi-monthly basis, it's difficult to track that expenses and where we currently stand in terms of status for projects that we're working using TIF money when we don't know week to, not even bi-weekly, what was expended versus what was in that original budget amount. So it is just me, it's just my approach when I see the 8 million, it worries me. We don't see that in our meetings, right? And I know I've asked for that so that we get regular updates, so we stand financially. And I just think that would, at least for me, give some type of resolve so that when we can say with confidence, what that balance in the city council look like.
Yep. I'd love to be able to give you that too, have different priorities right now to accomplish.
No, I certainly appreciate that. And again, I understand the bandwidth in which you had to be responsible for in trying to come up with this. I know one of the other concerns of mine was, and I know we talked about it, a lot of those miscellaneous funds, right? We were kind of offsetting funds in those accounts and not fully understanding, what those would be used for, and how we can adequately determine the balance of those accounts. But I think overall, as I expressed to you in the meeting that I do appreciate your work, but I am concerned that, at least, just specifically speaking, this budget cycle, we did have an excessive amount of expenditures. And also considering
what, do you know today, at least percentage-wise, where we are with collecting property tax?
I do not, and a big chunk comes in December if I looked at the history correctly, so I prefer to kind of see the payments that are gonna come in December and then kind of give you an update on that, if you don't mind.
Adam has his hand up to his.
Yeah, I can answer that. So historically, the last 2 or 3 years, because of COVID, the property taxes have come in December. But as you know, are well aware, the second installment came in this year in September. So most municipalities are at that 92 to 97% collective right now. There's a 3% loss percentage that's included into your levy. At the end of the day, you're probably at like 2.9 to 3.2% loss percentage. So you'll have a little trickling in right now in December, but I would assume 95 to 96% collected right now on your tax bill.
95%?
95% collected, correct. And I can get you specifics on that.
Thank you. And then, just one last question, Brian. So, perhaps, I don't know if this certainly applies to you perhaps, or maybe our village administrator probably is best served for it. Because we're here, with this particular year's budget, I know that we want to have a quick turnaround to start our next budget. How does the board help you, to prevent us from being behind the ball this next budget season? How can we start to prevent a lot of the roadblocks that we had this year? And I know a lot of them were a learning curve, so I appreciate that.
I would say part of it's a learning curve, and then part of it's starting the process already in the year, which impacts you, right? So, I applaud Mr. Moore for giving his input and also kind of grounding us to the ordinance that was written out there. Yes, we need to start the process. We need to fill out these surveys. We need to have town meetings so that we get I'm not going to say the buy-in, but the right things to focus on for the village, for the people here.
So essentially, you are suggesting that the priority of the village should be probably a little bit more apparent or more clear, that will help you help you navigate it a little bit more. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, understanding what the priorities are for the residents. What is the priority that they say? What's the priority that's coming? And I'll reference this budget kind of. We have some tired vehicles out there that need to be replaced. So that's something that needs to be done. Otherwise, the police, the fire, public works can't do their job, or do their job efficiently.
I agree with that. I think that we all can agree that public safety, economic development, finance is obviously a priority. I'm sorry, I'm doing it, it's a priority for me, and I would imagine my colleagues as well, but I think that knowing how to get there is equally important. So I just want to be sure that as we start this next cycle that we get there. That's all I have.
Is there any other questions?
I want to make a comment.
Sure.
So Brian, I want to thank you also. I have called you and called you and met with you and bugged you at the last minute. I stopped you from going home, but I have asked a ton of questions. I have emailed you, I have texted you, I've done all that. And I just want to say thank you, because although sometimes it looks as though up here we're just sitting here, it doesn't mean that we're not asking questions behind things and trying to get to the bottom of something that sometimes we don't even understand way before our time. My passion, which I've told you a lot of times, and everything that everybody has said is extremely important to me also, because I'm a resident too. And I don't want to forget that. I live here too. However, one of my not pet peeves, but passions, which I've told you, is training and development. For the simple fact that only about 2,500 is allocated
and less before that for training and development, not only of trustees, but for staff, for you, for finance department, for the village administrator, to the mayor, to the staff that's every day. They need to be, we all need to be able to go to seminars and training and learn more about what we do. And I can spend $2,500 just on me, let alone all 6 of us. 7 actually, we have a new clerk. And so my question, or maybe my statement is, I would really like to see that number increased the next time for that type of development and training and seminars. Even if it's online, that needs to happen. There's no way that we can continue, anyone can continue to do your job effectively or get to another level without some type of ongoing training and development. Mr. Moore, I keep telling you, I just thank you so much. I think you're very smart. You are. You're very smart. And for the simple fact that you even recommended this, you didn't have to. I appreciate that, and I know Brian does, and we all do. And if there's anything that can make the job more effective and streamlined and let the residents understand, it's a lot to look at. We're not accountants. I don't think like an accountant. So I just appreciate you for doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Is there any other questions?
Brian, I just maybe one additional.
I can't talk. I have a question. He said I can't talk. I don't think you know what he's talking about. I want to say this. You have people who are losing their houses because they cannot pay taxes. Great taxes that has come up. I'm not one of them, but I can tell you that because I've heard it. And we got tip money that you all know how to get a little bit out and help the community. Think about that. No, I don't need to help, but a lot of people do.
Go ahead, you can answer.
Brian, as we prepare for this next one, this next budget cycle, I'm doing my best to add to my notes as a reminder. Can we highlight areas, line items in our budget where we have already included that revenue amount or expenditures possibly? Can we identify those so that as this next cycle, we aren't combining those 2 amounts from previous years? Because I just don't, for example, need much to what Ms. Mosley had stated when I talked about that. We're looking at revenue projected for a portion of the upcoming year and then something we've got this year. I just want to be sure as coming to the existing board or boards that come understand the story behind those numbers. So if we can highlight that, identify that as we work with that next process, I think that would be beneficial to the next board so that they're not, misunderstanding what those numbers represent.
Sure.
Any other questions? Somebody like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget?
So,
Trustee Lynch, do a second.
Second.
Trustee Brown, any additional questions?
I just no question, just a statement. I know I've asked this in open session before, but as we map out the priorities for next year, the administrative mission, and I'm certain that this is probably already on the radar, but I would hope that our new HR manager, it's among her priorities that pay scale is included in there, because that, since I have been a part of the board, has always been a contentious point as we go through the budget cycle and salaries. So I'm certain, again, that's probably something we already discussed, but I hope that's something we can get high on the priority list as we prepare for this.
We've already started working on it. The other thing, you asked about the electrical contract. The first one that you all did was a 2-year contract. That one will be up for 1 17 of 2025, the deal is the renewal going forward. So we just have about years. First, we're in the second year now, that's a 2-year contract. So January 17th, it's up for renewal. It runs to January 17th. It was another contract that we want to go for the next 2 years. Okay. So it automatically renews after the first year, it's a 2-year contract. Have we expired all of our free applications, if you will? I want to say yes.
Okay, clerk, go ahead and call the roll.
Yes. Trustee Brown? Yes. Trustee Clark? Yes. Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe? Yes. Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Would somebody like to make a motion for the fiscal 2025 TIF projection? Trustee Roll? Actually, we need to vote.
Yeah, it's a projection.
Okay, we got a first from Trustee Roll, we have a second. Trustee Taylor, any questions?
So, just voting on it, make this
No, you're not authorized to make the actual spend. So no action will be taken? No. This is just improving, this is a plan or projection. And then you can see how you get from the action. I'm just going to make, this does not approve any expenditures, does not approve any TIF projects, does not actually approve any expenditures.
Any other questions?
Well, what's the projection? If we're voting on a projection and it's no action, what's the projection? Mary, what?
It's just a plan.
Yes, it's an outline, but everything's still got to come to the approved board for approval.
Any other questions? Clerk Williams, call roll.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Lynch?
Yes.
Trustee Rowe? Trustee Taylor? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Thank you for your hard work, Brian. And it was a long road. Is there any other old business?
Yes.
Okay.
I said yes first. I just want to reiterate that I'd like to see a report from Glenn Woody. I've asked it several times. Sometimes we see it a couple times, sometimes we don't. And so Phil, if you would be kind enough to submit a report like the other department heads, that'd be great. I know that Public Works, Joe, I think is on vacation. We usually see that. So I just think that if a department head is represented, that we should, even if it's not a report, then it should say something that's not a report. I just don't know why there wouldn't be a report from Glenn Woody since we have expenditures, etc.
So Trustee Brown, I'll start up and I'll pass it over to Phil. I'm going to be working with him. We just got the November and from the revenues, and I'm going to try to match the expenses together with him and be able to produce that at the second meeting of the month instead of the first because of that, the cycle of the information.
So we should expect a report every second board meeting? Okay.
Yes, that's what I felt the plan was the second board meeting, just for the data.
Okay.
Any other old business?
I have a few. Commissioner, are we going to replace the senior center director position? Do you have any plans for that?
Yes.
And this, I know you and I talked previously, and perhaps maybe Chief Welsh, you might have anyways too, but I sent you that contact I received from the conference related to that GoGov app. Yeah, I've been in contact with multiple contacts, so we're kind of going back and forth all day time through a little bit, but we'll kind of circle back with something. Where are we with the reverse 911 option? I know they were working through some options so that it wouldn't just be for emergencies.
Right.
So that's going through the e-com system. Right now, we've been working on the merger, so that hasn't been set aside. It's just taking us a little bit long to get it on board. But it is in place, and we should be able to get that going in the next 30 to 45 days. Thank you.
Any other old business? Okay.
Well, before you adjourn,
Sure.
can I just say this last thing? know that if my colleague thinks that this is appropriate or not, but I'll say it anyway. I just want us to have a moment of silence for Dion because the passing of his grandmother today, and I know he was very close to her, and he is here even considering that. So if we could just have a brief moment of silence for he and his family.
Everybody could bow their heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, dear. I want to let everybody know that we're having a holiday party in the village for veterans and seniors over 65 at Glen Woody this Thursday, December 5th, from 11:30 to 1:30. So if you can make it out, please do.
I'm over 65, I'm old.
There be no additional questions, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn? Trustee Taylor. Trustee Clark. Clerk Williams, call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Clark? Trustee Rich?
Yes.